All right, we're live. We're live.
All right, everybody, we are live. This is the Doug and Fur Show. This is my name is Doug Petrozelli. This is my partner in truth,
Fernando.
and we have a special guest today. Somebody I've actually known for quite some time. I'm really happy to have somebody who's actually been in the radio industry. He's a really high-end production person doing all types of videos. He has actually a lot of qualifications that I'm even unaware of. But I just want to introduce Michael Persoon.
Hello, people.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Michael. Give us a little bit of your background, and then we'll get into the topic.
Yeah, my name is Michael Persoon. I'm born and raised in West Palm Beach, Florida. I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, East Los Angeles, Encino, California. I was pretty much in a nutshell, I'm a content creator. I produce a lot of high-end content for other production companies and car dealerships, doctors, big stuff, small stuff. I was a morning show radio host for about 6 years for a legendary rock station, 103.1 The Buzz.
Yep.
And from there, that kind of catapulted my career, did a lot of interesting stuff, interviewed a bunch of famous people, and then pretty much transitioned back into my calling, which is film and production. Started to work with actor Faison Love, who was Big Worm in the movie Friday, Couples Retreat. Started a work and write comedy with Vince Vaughn, Jon Favreau, JB Smooth, a couple of those guys. And currently I own a coffee company called Roast Up Coffee Company. We serve fresh, locally coffee. We're getting ready to start opening up these coffee drive-thrus around Florida. And I kind of blended that in with content and really ended up creating a really nice brand. Big man of God, just believe that his strength is kind of what wills me. And I always stay on a tight path. I love discipline. I love knowledge. I love education. I love just helping people out. So that's pretty much me, Doug, baby.
Yeah. Well, we are so happy to have someone like you on the show, and obviously, I would hope that in the future, man, we could just even have even more influence from you, because you do have a lot to offer.
Well, and it's cool because he actually called. What was it, 2 podcasts ago when we were talking with Kevin?
Yeah.
We had another guest on, and he called, and we had a little bit of discussion, and then we asked him if he wanted to be on the show. We reached out to him privately, and here he is. So right. This is just an encouragement to anyone else who has anything they want to say. We'd be more than glad to have you on the show. So if you have anything you want to say, anything you want to talk about, you can reach out to us, whether it's on our side or against us. We always want to hear different viewpoints. So just reach out to us, and we'll make it happen. So
cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You guys are doing. You guys are staying consistent, and that's my number one kind of law is staying consistent, and you ended up biting me a little bit with it. So here we are.
Here we are.
You get some topics that get me going. I'm just going to say that.
That is what it is all about. So let's just start off. The first topic we want to talk about is COVID. Let's talk about mask mandates and vaccine mandates. Where do you stand on this?
Well, before we get into the topic, I know you guys are probably tired of hearing about that topic. This is going to be our 3rd time talking about it. But or is it our 4th? I don't remember. But actually, when he called and we talked about that. So we wanted to give him the opportunity to really expand. We didn't want to just shut out his voice. So
okay, that's cool.
So we want you to keep going on that topic, and plus it's so current and so relevant that I feel like we could talk about this forever. So
right.
Yeah. How do you want me? I mean, do you want me to kick?
Yeah, go ahead, man. You're our guest, man.
What's the question? And
so, what are your thoughts? Again. I know that we were talking about the mask mandates. We were talking about vaccine mandates, and we just kind of wanted to give you a little bit more of an opportunity to really express what your ideas were on that. Like, where do you stand on mask mandates? Where do you stand on COVID policies? What are your thoughts on these, the current because it is political because policies, which
involved,
is what, the second policies involved, it's political.
Exactly.
So there's no way to not politicize something that needs policies, and we do need policies for this.
Right. So kind of, okay, so where do I stand? Well, I'm a independent that kind of leans more to the right. After I kind of had children, I've become a little bit more conservative. I'm always for kind of less government, more for the people. Just being a business owner, I've had a lot of people who are friends of mine that own businesses, and also I'm actual friends with a couple really good doctors that I've been friends with for quite some time. So I try to soak all that in, and with with the whole COVID issue, so first and foremost, it is very real. There's
Right.
no denying that. If you are even remotely into the health industry, you know that this is a very serious issue. It has taken the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. It is just remarkable and incredible how fast it's spread. There's tons of rumors, there's tons of stuff about it, but indeed it is very real. Um, you're having something where the more they do research, the more they're finding out that, hey, I really think this came from a very specific lab. The more you dig down that rabbit hole, separating yourself from the rumors and the kind of the conspiracies, you realize that,
Right.
hey, maybe this really did come from a lab. So something happened, and we can go on for days and weeks about it, but where we're at now, it's just a very sad situation. There's a couple things in this wheelhouse that make it very confusing, right? There's, first of all, Facebook in social media can be a complete monster when it comes to confusion
Sure.
and misinformation. And it used to be where crazy people were scattered throughout the country and throughout the world, and then social media gave all the crazy people a voice and said, hey, now we can meet up here
Right.
and kind of spread this craziness. And if the logic is, if they can get your uncle to share a post and kind of do his rant, and when I say the uncle kind of terminology, I mean, like, we all have an uncle that kind of could be racist, or doesn't know he's racist, or doesn't really know he's ignorant. So you have a bunch of stuff like that, and that's how it kind of starts snowballing. Um, so it's one of those things where it's just extremely tricky. My wife and I have a couple friends in the actual medical room, and I have a best friend that works at UCLA, and it's a horror story about what they go through. And there's a lot of different debates. There's so many different sides. My one buddy, he just thinks it's like a really bad flu.
Right.
Has the flu kind of spread rapidly like this, and with this type of quickness and mutating the way that it does? No. Um, but where I kind of am at, to answer your question, is, I'm for getting vaccinated, but
Okay.
I live in like a divided house. Like, my wife is very nervous to get vaccinated.
Okay.
I am vaccinated. I didn't see the big problem with it. I didn't see these problems with it when I was growing up. You kind of just took the flu shot before school. It was kind of a part of our system. But that was, post, is it post or pre? I'm drawing a blank right now.
Pre is
COVID.
before, and
Yeah,
post is after.
pre-COVID. Yeah,
Right.
pre-COVID. So it's a lot different now. But that's where, if it helps, like, it's crazy to think that Americans have now made this a giant political statement. They like completely made it where it's one against the other. It's all split down the middle. You can't do a Facebook post encouraging people to, and you can't not do a Facebook post telling people not to, because you're gonna get just
Right.
terrorized on it.
Well, let me.
Go ahead.
Before we go any further, I want to kind of talk about that for a quick minute. And I want Fer to put in his thoughts as well. So one, I want to talk about. Yes, I think that me and Fer stand in the place that we think. I think that the vaccines are a godsend. I think that they're wonderful. I have chosen not to get vaccinated because my risk assessment is very low. We did the numbers. I don't know. Do you remember them off the top of your head? We did it on the show. What was the percentage of people?
0.005 for people in our age group.
In our age group. So I felt that I have a way higher the car ride over to the studio today. I had a higher chance of dying in that.
Right.
Just who I am. Now, I think that we here in America should have the freedom to choose.
But what if you caught it, gave it to me, and then by accident I gave it to my grandmother, and then she died?
Well, I think in that case, right? So, like, if Doug caught it and gave it to you, well, if you don't want to get it, then I guess you would be vaccinated, so he wouldn't give it to you.
Right.
So that
I know I'm using it just as an example, like
Right. And
as what somebody would argue. Couldn't Doug pass it along to somebody else who has
yes.
a
yeah,
much higher risk?
that's a great. I'm really glad you brought up that point because
Right.
that's one of the biggest arguments for the vaccine.
Right.
And not for the vaccine. I mean, just for being safe, right? And of course, we want to be safe. But one of the biggest arguments for it is, well, don't think just about yourself. Think about others.
Right.
Right, and that's a great argument. And in fact, if not having the vaccine would put others at a huge risk, then I think that the right thing to do is for everyone to get it. But
Right.
the fact is that you can get the vaccine, and if I'm not vaccinated and I have COVID, you're pretty well protected. I think your chances of getting it are 5%.
Right.
You're 95% covered, and then your chances of being hospitalized are significantly lower. So if you really don't want to get it, then you get the vaccine,
Right.
and whether I have COVID or not, or whatever, shouldn't affect you.
Right. And the
In theory.
vaccine has brought the mortality rate down to flu-like levels.
Yeah, I think it was lower.
Well. See, that's the point. Is that we have so many vaccines that we can give every single person in the United States a vaccine, and there's a lot of people that argue that should be the patriotic thing that you do as an American citizen.
Mhm.
You should go out to do this so you can have herd immunity, and then all of a sudden, then you can completely, wipe this thing out. When there's a lot of misinformation about it, there's tons of people that aren't doing this, and they're spreading this virus even more.
Right.
I mean, look, I'm torn by this. I mean, this is one of these things like where it was. I don't think I've ever caught COVID. It was, I actually tried to catch COVID to see, what's going on with this, and it never really hit me. So I was skeptical for a long time. I admit I probably let certain social media things influence me
Right.
where I was doing certain
Yeah,
stuff.
we're all influenced by it. Let me ask you this. So you said something interesting that you said that if we all got vaccinated, we could completely
I think we
wipe
have a
this
caller. We'll just wait for a little bit.
thing out.
Yes.
I don't believe that that's true because we would be able to wipe the flu out. We haven't wiped
Yeah, I
the
was
flu
gonna say
out.
that.
We have vaccines. We have new
I guess I
variants
don't-
every year. And that's my point. That being said is that, there are people who get immunity to the flu. I believe I have an immunity to COVID. I've been exposed, I don't know how many times, whether I just can't get it or I've had asymptomatic cases. Whatever the case is, I'm somebody that, I think very clearly not going to get it, not going to get sick.
We do have a caller.
Not to say, we have another call. We have a caller?
Yeah, we have a caller. I don't know if you want to take it or if you want to put him on hold for a little bit.
Hello?
Not wipe it out, but you can at least
You can mitigate it.
you can at least mitigate it and get control of it. And a lot of people are COVID deprived right now, man. We just can't handle it. We can't handle human beings are not supposed to have these masks on.
Right.
The length that this is going for. I mean, it's we're all deprived over it.
All right. We have a quick caller on the line. You are on the air with the Doug and Fur Show. We want to hear what you have to say.
What's your name?
What's up? My name is Drew. How are you guys doing?
How are
What's
you?
up, Drew?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I just want to bring up one topic. Can you give me a second? I have some notes I wrote down.
Can you make it quick?
Yeah, I'll make it quick. Give me a second. I'm gonna grab them.
Okay. Yeah. So I thought that the point about.
Okay. Sorry about that,
so
everybody.
I guess he was a crank caller.
Okay.
So the point about herd immunity, I think, was one that I wanted to touch on as well.
Right.
Which is what Doug was saying. It's the same thing, right? So yes, I think that the more people get vaccinated, the more we bring cases down. But I think if you think about it from a global perspective, like yes, we bring down cases, but at this point that the vaccine is available to everyone, well, it's not available to everyone. There's people still 12 and under that can't get it, and people in other countries. But let's just say 6 months from now, the vaccine is available to everyone, and if you're not vaccinated, it's simply because you don't want to be, or you have a rare medical condition or whatever. So at that point, the discussion of herd immunity and the discussion of cases, etc. If you have COVID, it's because you wanted to, because you could have gotten the vaccine. So I think that the discussion shifts from this whole idea of like, oh, you're being selfish, you're not getting the vaccine, so you're not helping out with the herd immunity. No, if you don't want to get sick, you get the vaccine, so you don't have to worry about that.
There's a lot more people catching COVID now, more than ever. People who were extremely naysayers about it now have caught it, and this Delta strand is very different from the first strain that this was.
Right.
And
The Delta the Delta is far more transmissible, but the thing is, I'm just going to be blunt about this. I don't really care about the caseload. I care about the mortality rate. And the mortality rate has dropped. We can't shut down society. We cannot do things for a low death rate. We don't do that for car accidents. We don't do that for the flu. But caseloads, we can't do that.
So,
what were you gonna say?
Perfect example, yes, and I 100% agree. So, just some basic numbers. There's 35 million children in America, right? What we see
Depending
all
on
the
what
time.
we're saying, what qualifies for a child? Because it's 75, 18 and under.
Yeah, well, let's just say there's 35 million, children.
Like
right?
13?
Yeah.
13 and under?
There was only 2,000 cases of children that were severely ill. So think about that. 2,000 to
under 400
million.
died.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very low number. A very smart man in government told me this a long time ago. Not a long time ago, very recently. He goes, look, I'm a Democrat. He goes, every day we pass laws that most of you will never hear, never pay attention to, and never care to pay attention to. He goes, both sides literally agree on almost everything. He goes, you only really see the 2 to 5% of the BS that gets fed to your social media streams, that gets fed into your content that you digest, and all of a sudden that's what really creates this big division of what of what we're all going through.
Right.
Sorry, turn off the text message.
Oh,
go on.
I thought you were going to continue. That's true.
Right.
That's a great point that you mentioned, because a lot of people think that the country is completely divided, which it appears that way at face value when you're looking at media, but in reality, politicians agree on most things.
Right.
It's not. You go out in the real world every day. You tell me how much stuff you really see that's dividing us. It's really not. It's more of a social image that's being portrayed.
Right. No, if we watch the news alone, we would think that crime rates are out of control, that everything is going straight to hell. And the reality is, when we look at real numbers, crime is lower than it's ever been historically.
Yes.
Never mind if we're going to talk about world history. We live in one of the most peaceful, most prosperous, one of the best times to be alive is now.
And
but if we watch the news, we think it's the worst time in the world to be alive.
It sucks because that's how the news makes money, and their whole idea of portraying this image of society, it actually inadvertently increases it. So crime could probably be lower if it wasn't, division could probably be lower if it wasn't for the media really playing on that.
Right.
So, anyway, back to COVID.
Well, and there's a lot of people like us right now who use their I was in radio for pretty much 7 years, right? You don't. A part of me sees everybody do these podcasts and radio shows and things like this, and they call themselves broadcasters. Right. And a lot of people do this right now. They have their own podcasts. They have some of them get a lot of attention, and people spread a bunch of little dirty secrets. They spread a bunch of little dirty lies, and then all of a sudden it spins out of control. And, there's really not something governing that anymore. So it's confusing in a lot of ways to a lot of people.
Right. And I want to talk about that because we touched a little bit on that. I know that you had expressed your disappointment with the misinformation or disinformation that is happening on our social media platforms. And I kind of brought up the point, are you for free speech or are you against it? And you said that you were very pro free speech, but I wanted to get into with that, your frustration with that, because I know that is a challenging thing, but freedom does cost, and we can have authoritarianism or we can have freedom. We just have to weigh the cost and which one reaps the best reward. And I'm very just pro the freedom. And I just I think you are too, but I just wanted to touch on that a little bit with you.
Yeah, I mean, just like I said, I lean more right. I am. I think there's radicals on both sides. I just find myself fighting for, I'm 100% for what America is. There's a reason why our Western civilization is the greatest country in the world, and why our ideologies and everything else like this is the way that it is. It's because of what we've already been through. It's because this is why America is the way that it is, and a lot of these other countries and places, kind of fail. The biggest issue, and I'm all for pro speech. I'm all for people speaking their mind. I am against misinformation. I think that is what we get a lot of the times, and I'm sure all you guys have seen the movie Social Dilemma, right? It's where if I just so happen to like one Republican post today, my next Facebook feed in the next hour, even less, is going to be really more geared to what my like was all about, right? Same things with Democrats, same things with the far left and the far right. I feel like there's these people that try to balance it. I'm a big fan of Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, right? Candace Owens. I love people like that because as
listening
bad
to
as
my playlist or something here.
Well, the reason I like them, and I always argue anybody who's kind of against them, I really argue them to kind of challenge them or to first dig in and get some research, because they're really unbiased. I mean, even if you think they're biased, they're really not. They all are very intelligent. They're quick. They pay attention to what's going on in America, and democracy is not the same as it used to be. Let's just say minus what Bill Clinton did that was inappropriate.
Right.
Democrats are not like that anymore. You tend to get this other side that is a bit more radical than most, and I've been very against the kind of craziness that's what going on.
Well, I guess I want to ask about that specifically. Do you believe in government censorship for the misinformation? Or do you believe they have the freedom to say what they want to say?
Man, okay, so this is tricky, right?
Right.
This is a tricky question because let's say the three of us created a social media platform, right?
Sure.
So, Facebook is a privilege. Social media is a privilege. We did not communicate like this years ago. It is a different way of communication. It can be used for tremendously good things, and it can be used for extremely horrible things.
Right.
In the end of the day, it is a privilege to have. And if the three of us started a social media platform, the three of us make the rules up. So I'm not Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know what his rules and policies are, but this is where everything starts getting twisted is the way that the devil plays the fiddle, right? There's a lot of stuff where Facebook hasn't been fair.
Right.
If you look a couple years ago, Facebook was scratching Ben Shapiro's back. He was the number one online social media broadcaster in the world, right? Then all of a sudden, Facebook got a little bit more political, and then they tried to bring his numbers down for a lot of cases like that. Look what happened to Russia with how they were tampering with Facebook ads and stuff like this. So there's a fine line into where it's going to go. I just know that I still believe that we're in a very infant stage in social media.
Oh, sure.
And we're going to really find out. Is it nuts that Donald Trump was taken off of social media? That is crazy. That should not be allowed at all.
It's got to be violation of the policy, and that this is not a publisher; it's a platform. You have
you have a leader of Afghanistan who's killing women, burning people, doing all this crazy stuff, and he's allowed on Twitter and social media.
Right, and that's the whole thing. Is I want Facebook to make up its mind whether it's a publisher or a platform. If it's a publisher, then I'm going to go somewhere else, and there'll be a new platform that believes in free speech.
Exactly.
And you should also have your protections taken away, because there's actual I forget what the Section 230 protects these companies and gives them platform privileges. But the second that you start censoring, you become a publisher and you're no longer a platform. That's the only thing that I want to see. And it's fine if they want to become that. But then be that. And you will also see your stocks drop because of that, because you've now eliminated half of your audience there. I'm just my whole thing is to the people that I disagree with the most, Ibram X. Kendi. I can't tell you how much I think that individual is misguided, and I can't tell you how much I disagree with him. But me as an American would die for his right to say what he wants to say. As much as I disagree, as much as I think what he is saying is poison to the American mind, I have to believe in freedom. And I have to believe that truth will overcome and silence all lies, and that, we're to go head to head. And if what I truly believe is true, I can argue, my point and dismember his points. And that's kind of where I stand with that,
Right. No, I mean, me too. You're spot on, and that's why I say that we are in a very infant stage still,
right.
with social media, and there's going to be rules and there's going to be laws that are coming very soon, because you are definitely seeing an uprise in people. There is definitely something happening behind the scenes. A lot of Democrats are fed up. America's in a very sad spot right now, because Trump, in a way, was really not the president that we needed. We needed a lot of his policies and certain ways of his strongholds and leaderships, but we didn't need. There's just a certain level of standard when you are in the highest office, in the most powerful person in the world. But then we get Biden, and it's in my eyes, Biden makes Donald Trump look like I would vote for him over and over again, just because it's like, man, if something like, all right, take for Afghanistan, and I know you're probably going to touch on that, but
right.
If I was the leader of the free world and something happened to Afghanistan and everything that was going on, I don't need a teleprompter to go to the American people and say what's really, say what's happening, say where my leadership is going to go, say what is going on here. It's just a mess, kind of what that whole party is. Nobody is remotely paying attention to the borders. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the amount of people that are coming in here.
Right.
But then you're gonna have all these insane COVID laws and make every single kid wear masks in school. COVID has to be the most intelligent disease in the world, that it knows that if the three of us walk into a restaurant, right, we have to wear our masks. But if we go to the bar or we go sit down at a table, this disease goes, hey guys, like, well, wait a minute, I was going to attack them, but they're at the bar, they're at their seats. Let's attack the people who are walking into the restaurant. It's just ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah, that's something I like to talk about all the time. Where it's like, I have no problem with COVID laws and restrictions. I just want them to make sense.
Yes.
Right? And I want them to be consistent. Amen. And it's like the other day we went to McDonald's, and the lady told us we had to get out because we had to wear our masks. And I was like, oh, we don't have a mask. Do you have one? And they're like, no, so you have to get out. So then we go outside, and then the sign on the door says that masks are optional for vaccinated employees. They didn't even talk about people. So we went back inside and we told her, and she's like, oh, no, you can order, but then you have to take the food and leave. Jeez. So I'm thinking to myself, wait, I can order here inside without a mask, but then I have to take my food and leave. But if I had a mask, I can order and then take off the mask to sit down and eat. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, the laws just don't make any sense. So
at all. And that's what people are fed up with. And that's why you're seeing people really get sick of it.
Right.
Yeah. I like the fact that that you're telling us all these points that you believe and agree with, and how the points you're saying mostly lean right, but then at the same time you also talk about the vaccine and your viewpoints. And I like that because it tells other people that maybe on the left or something like that, hey, Republicans aren't like you take every single policy that you believe a Republican is and throw it, and you label every Republican like that. Like, this guy's a Republican, he must believe all these things, and it's not true.
Yep. You're bringing up a really good point, because some of these doctors who hire different cultures, different races, different people. A lot of the doctors who are my friends, a lot of people who you would think that are actually Republicans. And there's a lot of Republicans are almost like this secret, like no one wants to actually come out and say that they're a Republican. It's like It's like, hi, I'm a Republican. I'm coming out of the closet. I'm normal. It's like nobody wants to admit, and it's just like ridiculous because it's like, hey, all we really want is more money for like people. Like we want less government in our stuff because I have a theory, and look at me, I'm probably spreading a super mass conspiracy right now. But I look at Afghanistan as such a ploy to take everybody's eyes off the borders. And it's just one of these things where I'm like, if I was a Democrat, the more people that I can bring into the country, the more I know that I'm going to have their votes. And if I have mass population of the votes, right, because I let all these people come in, then the goodbye to any Republican
becomes a one-party state.
Candidate.
Yeah, that's politics. I mean, that's how Pablo Escobar did it. If I give all the money to the poor people, which are the majority, then they're going to want to vote for me. And the only reason he wasn't president is because he got caught.
Right.
But yeah, and that's the difference between what I see in the Democrat Party now versus the Republican Party. The Republican Party can get everyone's votes if they just give them what they want. They can say, hey, we're going to let everyone in through the border if you vote for us, right? But they're not. They're doing what they think is right. And whether it's actually right or not is irrelevant. It's not that it's irrelevant, but I don't know if the majority of Democrat leaders are thinking, hey, we're letting these people in because it's right. I think they're thinking in their self-interest. We're letting these people in because we're going to get their votes.
Of course.
But if they were doing that because they truly thought that it was right, that's a different story.
Right.
And that's something that, we could talk about. But at this point, it just seems unfair. I'm not saying every Democrat is like that, just like every Republican is not every stereotype that everyone gives it to be.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's one big misconception in today's world is Republicans are stingy, they're greedy, they're mean, they're heartless. But Democrats, they love everybody and they're open. And
I own a coffee company. I've been roasting coffee since 8 a.m. in the morning. I give everything I have to get my product out. I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. and do 7 different drop-offs from Stewart all the way down to Delray. And all I want is that if at the end of the tunnel or somewhere in my journey that this hard work that I'm doing has some type of payoff, and not every bit of not this giant chunk of my money needs to go to the government.
Yeah.
That it hasn't helped my company once, So
yeah.
It's just like that, and there's a lot of people like that, and people forget that if you. Okay, so real quick, people look at millionaires as like, the rock stars and celebrity. The number one car driven by a millionaire is a Ford F-150 truck. Now, what does that tell you, right? There's a movie called Becoming Warren Buffett, right? He's driven the same Cadillac for like 7-8 years, right? He goes to McDonald's every morning for breakfast, and he only spends what his wife gives him in change, which is like $3.50, and he does it right. So he carries that cash around not to spend. That is what the people that you're taxing dramatically, like, okay, people forget that when you tax people that make over a certain amount, like tax them hard. If I'm making $400,000 a year, I have employees, right? So a lot of that money is going to my employees. It's going back into my business. And when you tax these small business owners like that,
right,
it's just ridiculous. And every small business right now is hurting,
right,
because people don't want to go to work when they can stay home and do nothing with their life, and they're not realizing that this is all going to catch up to them.
Right.
They're not going to have a good resume. Their time's going to be up, and what are they going to do? Right? So we're setting up failure in a whole bunch of different ways.
No, we're setting up people for more government dependency, and the entire premise of having a wealthy nation that can even afford social programs like that, it's from capitalism. It's from the free market. That's where it all starts. You want to produce wealth, you need to. I mean, my opinion, you shouldn't tax businesses at all. No business at all. Don't tax it. Tax the individual, yes. Don't tax the business at all. And let them
just
continue
like churches, right? People got a lot of problems with churches not being taxed.
Hey, well, if it's providing jobs, that's providing way better than any government, social program. And I want to see people become masters of their own destiny, and that's going to be when more jobs are provided. We can debate what individuals need to be taxed, but the business is the backbone. That's the goose that lays the golden egg. That's what we need.
And I think I think most Republicans. I mean, if you're a Democrat out there watching and you have this misconception of Republicans that they're racist or they're greedy, most Republicans want to take control of their own lives, right? They want to make their own money to provide for their families and hopefully get wealthy so they can give to charities and just live a happy and fulfilled life and be a blessing unto others, right? And the reason that Republicans disagree with all this taxation and things like that is because when we give that money to the government, they don't do anything good with it. I think what the U.S. has done with our money that has been good is probably have the strongest military in the world.
Right.
But aside from that, I mean, giving our helicopters and M4s to the Taliban, like, that's just sad.
Right. No,
that our money is
extremely disappointing.
The one thing, since we're talking about this in case anybody watching, the biggest thing is stop being so divided. Stop ruining friendships and family relationships and getting upset with people because they're Republican or they're Democrat. Like, that is just ridiculous. You got to be able to have some type of dialogue. You got to be able to communicate. And in the Bible, when it speaks about what a wise man is a person where the three of us have a conversation and all three of us walk out with a better knowledge of what we had beforehand.
Yeah.
Come on. So you gotta talk, and you gotta be less, intense with all of this. It's crazy, and that's what I feel social media has been doing the absolute most.
Yeah, I want to talk about some podcast. Maybe one day we talk about religion, because it's such a big part of American culture. So I know that's a whole can of worms, and like if we dive into it right now, we're probably going to spend more than 20 minutes on it. So
right.
But at some point, you and I got to talk about it, and maybe if you would like to talk about it at some point too, we can do that as well. But we can talk about why we believe what we believe, but how we respect everyone,
right?
And just that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. With the remaining time, though, I do want to touch on Afghanistan. It is a current news. It is something I want to talk about. I did want to hear your thoughts and opinion. First, I want to ask you, what do you think about the withdrawal in general, not the way we withdrew? Do you think we should have stayed there? Should we have been there in the first place? Should we have stayed? Should we withdraw? And then I want to go into what you think about the actual withdrawal. So first, what are your thoughts? Should we have been there in the first place? Should we have left right after we got there, or should we have stayed? What's your thoughts?
Oh, okay. Tough question. This is a 20-year-old war, right?
Sure.
It was confusing because we first went in really hard, and then we kind of shifted and we started to go after Saddam Hussein, right?
Yeah.
And then we went back in, and it's been going on for an extremely long time. It's a hard question to answer because there is no peace in that country, and there hasn't been peace in that country for, biblical times, right? It kind of seems like a constant war.
It's a place that empires just rise and fall.
A very different spiritual. This is a spiritual war. It will always be a spiritual war with them, right?
Sure.
The way that we were taken out, Trump really kind of had a different way, right? He was getting the people out,
right.
But the way that he was proceeding in it was, I'm not fully educated in it, but I know that the way that it was handled, it is absolutely bizarre, right?
Because, right. Well, what he was wanting to do, I think he first came in with the idea. Even Obama came with the idea. Hey, we're going to withdraw. We're going to get our troops out of there.
Which is, it's time, right? Because we the amount of money that was poured into their government. We trained their soldiers. They have weapons. We
right.
taught them how to fight for themselves, and we built them, a small army.
Right. So both of them, a Democrat and a Republican, both went in with the idea we're going to get the troops out of there. Then when they came to the understanding, hey, this is what it's going to look like, which is they were being advised that what's happening now is what will happen. They both decided to not do that, and then Trump kind of went more in the direction of, we're going to get most of the people out there, but we're going to have, our base there, and, we'll be able to operate from there with a skeleton crew. But we're going to put a lot of the, Afghan army in charge of their things. and we're just going to have a base more or less how we have bases in Korea, Japan, Germany. It was going to be that, but those places have their own militaries. That does keep a deterrent, knowing that the United States can come in full force. And that was kind of Trump's direction.
Then Biden comes in and then what, just pulls everybody out, correct?
Right. It was an immediate pullout. It was, what we can debate whether we should have been there or not. I'm in the idea that I like the idea of being there and keeping the peace. I thought that had long-term political and economic gains for us. It was 1% of our budget. In the last 18 months, not one military man had died. It's safer to be, stationed in Afghanistan than be a cop in Chicago. So
Good.
I was pro us being there under that situation and circumstances. I thought that was, worth it with all the rare minerals. It wasn't going to be tomorrow, but in the next 20, 30 years, I'm thinking long-term for the United States, the rare earth minerals, trading with the United States would be great. Having that, check and balance on China and Russia. Hey, we got a military base right here. Also that check on other terrorists. I thought that was a great idea for us to be there. Regardless if someone agrees or disagrees with me, I think the way that this withdrawals happened is absolutely disgraceful. I have nothing but I don't like to be someone that says, oh, I can't, I'm never a not my president type of guy. Biden is my president. I respect the office. I don't say that the election was rigged. I think that there was issues that I didn't like, but I'm going to respect the
closing
office.
The curtains when they were counting ballots and blocking people out.
We have to prove that. As much as I believe that is subjective evidence, we have to live in a world of objectivity, because the second we open a door to subjectivity, creating policy, that opens the door for everything to be permissible. So as much as I feel like there was rigged in the election, I can't find any objective truth. I find a lot of subjective truth. So I can't base the world off subjectivity, but objectivity.
That's a good
wasn't it to Biden's point that he just the way he kind of handled it was like disgusting. It was weird in my stomach. And they put a lot of the blame on why did the Afghan military kind of just give up and pack up and abort,
Right.
I don't think people really understand how crazy the Taliban really is.
Well, we also took all our contractors, like our contractors that maintain the military equipment, out. So now they don't even they can't operate the planes that they had because all the U.S. contractors were out. So they basically didn't have an air force because it wasn't able to be maintained. These people.
Well, that's Trump was going to pull our military out, but we were going to keep an air force there. We were going to continue bombing strikes and stuff like that, because I don't think we wanted to give the Afghan military our F-35s and our...
Right.
No, yeah, and you know what? When Trump was president, you didn't. I have to say, I think these evil forces were a lot scared of this guy than they are Biden. I mean.
Well, if you're unaware of what happened in the news, and I don't mean you, I mean a viewer, this just happened. Biden was pushing the deadline to pull out everyone was August 31st, and that was a soft deadline that was just set. But hey, we're going to pull out everyone by August 31st, and the Taliban took that as this is a deadline. And Biden was trying to extend it, and the Taliban said, no, there's no extending it. If they extend it, there's going to be severe consequences. This is what the Taliban said. They would have... I mean, I don't want to play the Biden-Trump game, but I don't think they would have said that under Trump. Trump dropped the Moab on them, which was the first time that bomb has ever been used. And ISIS control had gone down 95%. So I just think something needs to be done, and we need to show force there with the Taliban. But unfortunately, we just pulled out, and we're going to leave that the way it is, and we're just going to let it fall to pieces.
Yeah, and it's sad. I saw a video today of that one image, it is haunting me. I mean, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and this is something that always affects me is the saddest part about kind of the day and age that we live in is I can tonight, right, I can go on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, and I can see like this really incredible story, right, a story that like touches your heart, really makes you get sensitive, feel what's happening, and then in like 10 seconds you're on this other post, right? And like you just have such the luxury, and you're so spoiled that you don't even have to remotely deal with what's going on. And I feel like a lot of people, they don't meditate on that, right? We're constantly running, we're never fully walking, right? if you look in like the Bible, you never ever once read that Jesus was running. You never ever like saw this guy in a hurry when he was going to heal you know, the daughter that was dying. You know, he stopped on his way there and saved somebody else, you know. And I think right now we're just so constantly on the go,
right,
that we don't pay attention to what matters the most. And this video had this teenager, I mean, she was just begging for the army to take her, for us to take
right.
her.
I saw that one.
And dude, I was like, this is just disturbing, right? Because we're not dealing with that, right? We're just watching through a stupid phone camera, and we're not understanding that heat, that, you know, I mean, think about when you went to a concert, you can feel everybody's body heat, or you're in a mosh pit, how scary and how intense that thing can be sometimes. Yeah. We're not realizing that, or that one image where the mom is just like, you know, handing her baby to a soldier, and you're just like, this is wrong. I mean, finding body remains in the airplane that took off, watching people fall to their death because they were literally Let me tell you something. If I'm ever holding on to an airplane to get the hell out of Dodge, something's wrong. I don't want to be here, right? Mm-hmm. And that's just what's sickening. And then to really see such a lack of leadership is, I think, is what's the most disturbing about it.
And the thing that I find disappointing is, you know, the other argument that I've heard, and I disagree with this argument because, you know, we were there. This was essentially becoming very westernized, very liberalized country. There's people that the average age in Afghanistan is like 18 and a half years old. So we've been there 20 years. There's people there. The average person doesn't know life any differently than now, where they have coffee shops, they're going to work, they're living very similar lives to us. And now, I mean, all hell has broken loose. So you've destabilized the country. You've messed it up militarily, economically for United States in the future, and politically. Not only that, it's been at the cost of, you know, these poor people's lives. You know, the spread of America's ideas are good for America and they're good for the world. We just wrecked that. We wrecked all integrity. Not only that, there's 15,000 Americans. So even if you're going to say, well, we don't owe them anything, this and that, as much as I disagree with that statement, as much as I would think that, yes, it cost us something, but it benefits us more, as much as I would take that argument apart, there are still 15,000 Americans and countless other American allies that have been translators and helping us that I think we do owe a service to get them out of there, to have some type of freaking plan to say, we're going to get you out safely before we do any withdrawals. And now there's people
very good point.
scared to death in their house. That, to me, is the place where I'm saying this is disgraceful. I don't like to talk. I very rarely ever, I mean, right or left, I'm going to call someone out when they're wrong, but to say something is just completely disgraceful, completely disappointing. That is that. There's people that we do owe a service to over there. Outside, there's no negotiating that. And we've left them out to dry.
There's a lot of people who will argue you and go, you were never going to fix that country. This was always going to happen, with or without Trump. These people are crazy. This is a religious war. They're going to come after people no matter what. Right. And you're just looking at what these people do.
Right.
But
the American
you're
citizens.
right. Why don't you know? Look, remember when the people stormed the Capitol, right?
Right.
Nobody talks about the American that was shot and killed in that, right?
Yeah, Ashley Babbitt.
There's a very big rule that we don't do in America. We don't, right? You don't kill one of us, right? That's a no.
Right.
If an American dies overseas, if an American dies anywhere, it's a little intense, and nobody talks about that. 15,000 Americans in there, right? Nobody talks about that,
right?
And that's just where this is a train wreck, and but you know, it's waking up a lot of people. I make a joke. I say, you know, the one good thing that Joe Biden has done is he's created more Republicans.
That's freaking great. That is freaking great.
So that's a plus side that we have for him. You know, look, it's amazing. You see Cubans and you see more African Americans, and you start seeing people wake up, and you go, well, damn, what were we doing? What kind of spiritual amnesia were we under?
Right.
I I think what's worse than that is the people that see what's going on and just can't accept it. They just continue to give excuses after excuse, and
Facebook looks like a ghost town with like liberals writing something bad about Joe Biden. It's like, come on, guys, like, you know you didn't want him.
Trump would drink Starbucks as opposed to, I don't know, McCafe, and it was the end of the world.
Exactly.
You know, so yeah, I just think I hope that people could be more open-minded, myself included, because you don't know when you're being closed-minded. Someone either has to call it out, and on top of someone calling it out, you have to have the humility to say, you know, maybe I am being closed-minded. And I hope that becomes true of all of us, that we're able to see what's going on and say, like, you know, I made a mistake, or I'm wrong, or maybe I should think about this in a different way, or come at it with a different perspective. And that's the goal of everything we're doing. You know, this dialogue that we're having here, the goal is for other people to listen to it and be inspired and encouraged to open up their mind a little and think of different things. And that goes for us too. You know, we don't want to be closed-minded with this right mentality.
Dude, I don't need to post on social media anymore when it comes to any type of politics. I get so mad because I'm the guy that I'll be in the bathroom and I'll read something. Oh, that's it. It just really pisses me off, right? And then I'll like share it, and then I look like, come on. I mean, who am I? Who am I out of my couple thousand followers? What kind of revolution am I gonna start?
What's a good thing? It's a good thing you brought that up, because actually, I mean, you were talking about that the podcast that you listen to, Doug and stuff, and you as well, you were talking about that it's like, oh, Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens and stuff like that. And I actually didn't mention, actually, a lot of the podcasts that I listen to are liberal podcasts. I've talked about one here before. What? Yes, because I want to know their point of view.
Exactly.
I want to know where they're at, where they're coming from. Why is it that you believe this? Because if I don't understand their point of view, how can I ever expect to have dialogue?
Right.
So I want to see where they're coming from. So that's actually a lot of the stuff I listen to is liberal podcasts, or just short snippets of them. And sometimes
I would listen to short snippets. Don't listen to the whole thing there, bro.
It's just a little too long, but sometimes I find myself just like you, like, oh, this is so infuriating. How could this person believe this, right? But yeah, it at least gives me their perspective. So
yeah, like people make up, like, and it is this whole, completely off topic, but like a transgender stuff and everything. Finding a transgender on an average day is like finding a unicorn. Right. I mean, it's not as like crazy as people make it.
Right.
But we're fed that 5%. I wish my Facebook feed was filled with more of, the new Spider-Man trailer.
Right.
Things like I'm a dork for, but unfortunately it's filled with politics and
well, even that stuff, you'll see a post on the Spider-Man trailer, and then you read the comments, and it's political.
Is Spider-Man gay? This summer, Spider-Man becomes gay or bi or trans.
Or
it's the multi-universe, baby. Anything goes.
Spider-Man voted for Trump or something.
Oh, goodness.
I want to thank Spider-Man for voting for me. Him and I Spider-Man and I am the one who created the spider web and the theme song, but nobody gives me credit for it. I know Spider-Man better than Spider-Man knows Spider-Man.
Oh, goodness. Well, we are about out of time. That's a really great note to end it on. But thank you so much.
You gotta laugh, baby. You gotta laugh.
Yes.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for being our guest. We're definitely going to have you on again. We really do appreciate you. Thank you again for being on the show. Is us signing off, everybody.
Just to everyone, if you have any questions, you want to be on the show, you have anything you want to talk about, we welcome you, and just reach out to us, and we'll make it happen.
Yep.
But
if you love coffee, roastupcoffee.com.
Yes.
Order some coffee.
Yes. Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, I roast it.
You're gonna have to pay us a promotion.
Come at me, bro. Come at me, Democrats. Come at me, Republicans. I'll take you all on.
All right, everybody. All right. This is the Doug and Fur Show.
Signing off.